They broke you. Life hit you, and it hit you hard. People betrayed you. Circumstances crushed you. And somewhere along the way, you started believing that broken was your permanent state. But here's what they never told you. The most dangerous men in history were not born powerful. They were forged by destruction. Machiavelli himself didn't write his greatest work from a throne. He wrote it from exile, humiliated, stripped of everything, forced to his knees by the very system he once served. And yet, the prince became the most feared blueprint for power the world has ever known. That's not coincidence, that's a pattern. Because broken men who refuse to stay broken become something the world has no category for, something it cannot predict, cannot manipulate, and cannot stop. Today, I'm giving you 7 lessons, not motivation, not comfort. These are surgical truths hidden inside Machiavelli's philosophy, used by history's most untouchable figures. If you're ready to stop being a victim of your own story and start becoming the architect of your own power, drop King in the comments right now. Let's begin. Lesson 1. Pain is your greatest teacher. Machiavelli understood that pain is not your enemy. It is your most honest teacher, your most loyal advisor, and your most powerful weapon if you learn to use it correctly. Every man who has ever risen to real power did not rise despite his suffering. He rose because of it. The fire meant to destroy him became the thing that hardened him into something unbreakable. Most men, when life hits them, either collapse completely, drowning in self-pity, or they run, numbing the pain with distractions. Machiavelli's hidden law says something different. Sit in it. Don't flinch. Look directly at what broke you and ask the one question weak men are too afraid to ask. What is this teaching me? Pain reveals your blind spots. It exposes who was never truly loyal. It strips away every illusion you are hiding behind. It forces you to see reality with a cold, clear eye. And that clarity is the foundation every powerful man is built upon. Machiavelli wrote that a wise man must always choose the path of necessity, not comfort. Pain is necessity. It is the universe stripping away everything that was keeping you weak. Stop mourning what broke you. Start studying it. Your breakdown was never the ending. It was always the blueprint. Lesson 2. Silence is your most powerful weapon. Machiavelli understood that the man who controls his tongue controls his fate. In a world where everyone is desperate to be heard, your silence becomes something rare, something intimidating, something that forces people to question themselves before they ever question you. Most men talk too much. They reveal their plans before execution. They expose wounds to people who secretly celebrate them. They argue when they should observe. They explain when they should withdraw. This is how ordinary men stay ordinary. The Machiavellian mind understands that every word you speak is information you are voluntarily surrendering. Every reaction is a map you are handing your enemies. When you stop explaining yourself, people start doubting themselves. When you stop reacting, people start losing control. When you move in stillness and speak only when your words carry absolute purpose, you become unpredictable, and an unpredictable man is an untouchable man. Machiavelli wrote that a wise man must be both lion and fox. Silence is how you become the fox, how you see the trap before it closes, how you study every player in the room while revealing nothing about yourself. Let your stillness speak louder than any word ever could. Let your silence be the most powerful statement you have ever made.
Drop Silent King in the comments. Lesson 3. Master your emotions or they will master you. This is where most men fall apart. Not in battle, not under pressure. They fall apart from the inside because they never learn to govern their own mind. A ruler governed by his emotions is not a ruler at all. He is a puppet, and the strings are pulled by whoever knows how to provoke him. Emotion, unchecked, is the most effective weapon your enemies will ever use against you. They don't even have to fire it themselves. They simply create the conditions and you detonate on your own. The Machiavellian man trains himself to pause where others react. He observes where others explode. He develops the ability to feel anger, humiliation, betrayal, and choose deliberately how he responds. Not suppression, mastery. There is a critical difference between a man who feels nothing and a man who feels everything but is controlled by nothing. The first is numbness, the second is power. The man who masters his emotional state masters his circumstances because perception shapes reality. When someone tries to humiliate you and you respond with stillness, you win. When betrayal comes and you recalibrate coldly instead of collapsing, you win. Stop wearing your emotions on your sleeve like a target. Start treating emotional discipline as the highest form of personal power. The man who cannot be provoked cannot be defeated. Drop "emotionless king" in the comments. Lesson 4. Choose your circle like your life depends on it, because it does. There is a law operating silently in your life right now. You will become the average of the people you allow into your closest circle. Their ceiling will become your ceiling. Their mediocrity will become your mediocrity. It will seep into you so gradually that one day you look in the mirror and realize the man staring back has shrunk, has settled, has accepted a life he was never supposed to accept. Machiavelli warned that a ruler surrounded by flatterers, men who tell him what he wants to hear, is a ruler walking toward his own destruction. Flattery is poison dressed as loyalty. It feels good in the moment and kills you slowly. The men who celebrate every decision without question, who never challenge you, who clap for your mediocrity as loudly as they would clap for your greatness, these men are anchors keeping you in a harbor you were meant to leave. Then there are the energy vampires, the silent saboteurs who smile at your face and resent your progress in their hearts. Their betrayal doesn't announce itself. It moves through subtle undermining, through seeds of self-doubt, through being absent when you need support and present when you stumble. These people must be removed from your inner world without guilt and without looking back. Evaluate every relationship through one lens. Does this person make me sharper? Do they push me forward? If the answer is yes, protect that relationship. If the answer is no, you owe them nothing. Not your time, not your energy, not your future. Drop "elite circle" in the comments. Lesson 5. Never reveal your next move. Let your results speak without warning. There is a mistake that destroys more potential greatness than failure ever could. Announcing yourself before you have arrived. Telling people your plans before execution. Seeking validation for a vision that hasn't materialized. Handing doubters the ammunition to plant hesitation in your mind.
Machiavelli observed that those who conquered moved in silence. They planned in private. They endured in darkness. And then, without warning, they arrived. By the time the world understood what had happened, it was already done. When you announce your intentions prematurely, you invite opinions you didn't ask for. You open the door to criticism before you have results to silence it. You give your competition a clear view of your trajectory and vulnerabilities. But when you move in silence, you preserve your energy, you protect your momentum, and you build something far more powerful than hype. You build proof. The world does not reward intention. It does not bow to promises. It responds to results alone.
A man who talks about what he will do occupies a very different position than a man who simply does it and lets the outcome speak. Machiavelli wrote that it is better to be feared than loved, but fear is never generated by words. It is generated by demonstrated capability, by the pattern of a man who says little, moves deliberately, and delivers every time. Go dark, go deep, build in the shadows, sacrifice in the silence. Let your arrival be the only announcement you ever need to make. The most powerful entrance is the one nobody saw coming. Drop silent moves in the comments. Lesson 6. Strategic patience, the weapon that destroys without confrontation. In a world addicted to instant gratification, the man who masters waiting becomes the most dangerous force in any room. Not because he is passive, but because he understands that timing is not just part of strategy. Timing is the strategy. Machiavelli watched rulers destroy decades of careful positioning in a single moment of impatience. He observed generals throw away advantages because they couldn't tolerate the discomfort of holding still. He concluded that fortune favors the bold, but fortune sustains only the patient. Boldness without patience is recklessness. It burns everything, including the man wielding it. Strategic patience is not resignation. It is the disciplined act of refusing to let your emotions dictate your timeline. It is the ability to sit in uncertainty and remain clear-headed enough to recognize that the moment has not yet arrived and that forcing it will cost you more than waiting ever could. Most men, when they feel wronged, want to respond immediately. When they feel overlooked, they want to force their way into relevance. This is where they hand their power to forces they could have defeated if only they had waited. Strategic patience gives you foresight. It positions you above the chaos. You begin to see that most conflicts resolve themselves if you withhold reaction. You recognize that opportunities are missed not because they weren't present, but because impatience caused you to look away at the critical moment. Make peace with the waiting. The most powerful version of you is built not in moments of inspiration, but in 10,000 moments of disciplined patience where you held your position when every instinct screamed to move. That is where kings are made. Drop Patient King in the comments. Lesson 7. Reinvent yourself completely. Burn the old version and rise without apology. There comes a moment in every man's life where he must decide, remain loyal to the version that circumstances and pain constructed around him like a prison, or look at that version with cold, clear eyes and burn it to the ground without looking back.
Machiavelli understood that the greatest leaders were not men who remained consistent. They were men willing to transform completely when the moment demanded it. He wrote that the wise man adapts to circumstances the way water adapts to its container. The ability to shed the identity that no longer serves the mission is the highest form of strategic intelligence. Most men are imprisoned not by circumstances, but by their self-concept, by the story they've been told about who they are, what they deserve, what is possible for someone with their failures. They carry every mistake like a chain around their potential. They remain the man who was betrayed because betrayal became their identity. They remain the man who was broken because broken is familiar, and familiar always feels safer than the terrifying unknown of becoming someone the world has never seen. Reinvention is not betrayal of who you were. It is the highest form of loyalty to who you are capable of becoming. Shed the outdated narrative. Release the relationships and habits architected for a version of you that no longer exists. Rise without explanation. Rise without seeking understanding from people who were comfortable with your limitations because your limitations made them comfortable with their own. The most unstoppable force in this world is not a man who is never broken. It is the man who is broken completely,
who sat in the ruins of everything he thought he was and rebuilt himself into something so powerful, so precise, that the world that broke him can no longer recognize him. That man answers to no version of his past ever again. Drop "Reborn King" in the comments. The final truth: the untouchable man. Becoming untouchable is not an event, it is not a destination. It is a daily, deliberate, unrelenting decision to operate from such complete internal sovereignty that the external world, its chaos, its cruelty, its betrayals, its noise, loses its ability to define you. Machiavelli's deepest teaching was never about manipulation. It was about the cultivation of a mind so disciplined, so governed from within rather than without, that circumstances become tools and people become information rather than threats. The untouchable man is not the man without enemies. He has enemies because any man worth becoming attracts opposition. He is not the man without pain. He feels it completely. What makes him untouchable is that none of these things have the final word. His enemies sharpen him, his pain instructs him, his failures restructure him. Through every experience, he remains the author of his own narrative, never the victim of someone else's. This is what you are building, not a performance of strength projected outward, but a genuine, unshakable, internally rooted sovereignty that no circumstance can revoke and no person can dismantle. You came into this video broken, or perhaps just searching for confirmation that the fire inside you was worth something. It is worth everything, because that fire, disciplined by these principles, directed by this philosophy, committed to the daily decision of becoming untouchable, is exactly what the world's most powerful men were made of. Carry these 7 lessons not as inspiration that fades. Carry them as law, live them as code, apply them with the cold precision of a man who has decided that he will never be broken by the same thing twice. Drop "Untouchable" in the comments. That is your identity now. Not broken, not searching, untouchable.